Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Manny Diaz Show. Joe Zagacki with Don Bailey Jr. and University of Miami head coach Manny Diaz. This week, the Hurricanes at home against Central Connecticut State. Kickoff at 12:30 at Hard Rock Stadium. So we look forward to that one, Coach. I'll look back at last week's game. Probably the headline, I guess, when you look at it, is a game of missed opportunities.
That's right. It was, in a lot of ways, very similar to the App State game the week before. I thought we were in control early. I thought we had a chance to take a double-digit lead that would have really put us in control. It still would have been a 60-minute game, but to put pressure on them, make them play from behind. They had been ahead all season. They had never really had to play from behind. They've been up 14-0 after the first quarter of their first two contests, and we got a chance to go 14-3 with the crowd excited and a lot of momentum going our way. And it was another one like we did in the App State game with a penalty, self-inflicted wound lets them off the hook. A self-inflicted wound allows them to take a bubble screen and break a long play, and then from that point on, it was a back-and-forth game, a three-point game going to the fourth. Again, very similar to App State. The difference this time was that they made the winning plays down the stretch, two crucial turnovers that made the score look the way it was.
Coach, Will Mallory had an opportunity to score a touchdown, put Miami in a great position, and he doesn't, drops the pass, and then the missed field goal, or penalty, and then the missed field goal. Just that series right there, it seemed like it had an opportunity to really put Miami ahead.
Well, it did, and that's why we wanted to, create adversity for them, and make them play from behind. They were having a really hard time protecting their quarterback at that time. They really hadn't gotten a whole lot going on offense, and it's just an empty possession. When you get down there like that really hurts, and that's been a theme. Red zone production when we get down there close. But there was still a lot of ball left to be played. I mean, that's something that we've got to be able to overcome, and we didn't do a good enough job of mentally refocusing after that to be able to see it through.
Yeah, a 14-3 game probably puts that game midway into the third quarter with a Miami lead because of the way the game was going. I know there are a lot of things you want to work on. We'll talk about during the show. We mentioned the missed opportunities in scoring. I found this interesting today. University of Miami, you've run the third most plays inside the ACC, but have scored only 5 touchdowns. 222 plays and 5 touchdowns.
Plays inside the red zone?
No, just plays
in general. Yeah, and we can move the ball,
right.
But the score, the number of points we're putting on the scoreboard, that's I think what we didn't expect coming into the season. We just felt like we'd be an offense that'd be able to put up more points than what we've done through the first 3 weeks. We've played 3 good defenses, that have made it tough on us. But no one in this building is satisfied with the numbers we're putting up at this point. And at this point in the season, gives us a chance to really step back and analyze why those things are and what we can do as coaches and press the players to improve on that.
Manny, with 4 giveaways, it's very difficult to beat anybody at any time. You've got 7 giveaways for the season at this point. You only had 9 for the whole year last year. That's got to be something you're going to focus on heavily. That's
going to be a big point this week, all week. And the same thing with taking the ball away on defense. We are not disrupting the ball like we should, and we're certainly not protecting the ball like we should. And you hit it right on the head. I mean, if you're -4, you're going to lose that game. You can pull up a million data points that are going to tell you everything else is almost irrelevant. The fact that it was a tight game, 2 of those turnovers happened in the fourth quarter. That's why the score looked the way that it looked, and a close game became a not close game at the end. But that comes down to a lot of things. Protecting our quarterback, and protecting the ball when we run. There were some things that we felt like we weren't doing a great job with ball security, and you say it, and then all of a sudden the game proves it. But that's got to be a habit that is formed in practice. Should have already been formed. We got to crank up the heat on reinforcing that.
I know particularly frustrating for you has to be the tackling, because you take great pride in tackling. The University of Miami has been a hard-nosed physical team. Tackling, this year it's been a struggle. Why do you think the tackling has been a struggle, and then what can you do to fix it?
Well, the disappointing part with the tackling is it improved against App State. Our number dropped way down versus App State from where it was against Alabama, and then the number went way back up. 2/3 of our missed tackles occurred in the second half of the game, and the big thing that shows up on tape was, and the other thing is, it's guys that have tackled. It's guys that they've got a career of putting guys on the ground. It's similar to some of the drops on offense. I mean, if this was, guys that you knew couldn't do it, they can do it. So we watched every missed tackle as an entire defense together, every one. And it wasn't, I always say tackling doesn't care about your feelings. It is not an art. It is a science. There is a science. It is human physics to get a person to the ground and understanding your power versus their power and how to stop their momentum and wrap them to the ground. And too often their runners had their cleats still in the ground, pumping their legs, and our tacklers had our cleats out of the ground. And whether you lose your ground-based power, even if you're wrapped up, but you have no power, and guys are running through our tackles. So, we were all limited in terms of the ability to bring people to the ground. We drill bringing fellow defenders to the ground. But, it's hard to bring your offense players to the ground during the season. That's not a Miami thing. That's the way it is everyone in college ball and the National Football League. But we've got some things that we're working on this week to spice up our tackling, let's just say, that we're not going to be represented by a poor tackling outfit, and that will eventually also affect guys who play and don't play.
Coach, Chance Williams is every week he shows up, and that's defensive talk too. You want people that show up, and it's nice to see him starting to come around.
Yeah, and ball disruptive plays, which we said we need more of. He seems like he bats the ball down every week. Had a big sack, like I said early on. I mean, it was a mismatch every time they drop back and throw the ball. They didn't complete a pass to a wide receiver downfield until the fourth quarter, and only 2 for the whole game. It was an extraordinary game in a lot of ways. But guys like Chance coming along, the defensive line played very well. Michigan State did a nice job of really neutralizing our defensive line by playing the game on the perimeter, making the ball cut back to our secondary, and neutralizing our pass rush with screens.
Probably the other issue we need to address a little bit, the penalties have hurt. About 7 penalties a game, but there were some critical penalties in the game the other day that took away the momentum. How do you solve that one? That's a tricky one.
Yeah, well, number one, we disciplined all penalties. That was a very over officiated game, but Michigan State had 10 penalties. Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of things that were just going to get called in that game, right, wrong, or indifferent. So we had been better in penalties the first 2 weeks. About 6 a game. If you look at the national stats, is kind of. If you're somewhere around 6 a game, that's usually pretty good. What we talk about is what kind of penalties are they? Are they pre-snap penalties, the ones that you really can avoid? Are they post-snap penalties at the 15-yarder for a guy just getting emotional, and acting out on his feelings? Sometimes if you're an aggressive football team, penalties are going to happen during the course of a play. What I see is when I see holding penalties, I see guys that aren't moving their feet, which again is about bringing your feet. Same thing with the physicality of tackling. Those are the ones that we can fix and get cleaned up.
I got to bring some levity because, I go on my soapbox every now and then. But one of the overlooked things in this game was you were driving down the field when Mallory dropped the ball. That sequence really came unhinged after the officials took about 5 minutes to sort out that Michigan State had too many men on the field. And so the trade-off was they gave you 5 yards, yet it allowed Michigan State to kind of regroup and took D'Eriq. I think it took your offense out of a rhythm. Would you like to see, without getting fined here, but sometimes you just got to let the game go, right?
Yeah, that was a long time to figure out what everybody in the stands already knew, that they had 12. It has nothing to do with where they spotted the ball and whatnot. But, look, teams are going to use different ways. You saw it with Michigan State. Teams are going to do different ways to try to slow us down. It magically always seems to happen when the ball gets to about their 30-yard line. You got to be used to it. A lot of times it just means that what you're doing bothers them and it's working.
Coach, D'Eriq King, 59 attempts, I believe it is. I mean, that's a boatload. But the thing I noticed after the game in the locker room is we always talk about leaving it on the field. He left every ounce, every drop that a human being could leave on a football field. Yeah. And what an inspiration to this team.
That guy cares more about this place and this program. Is one of the most, devoted, dedicated football players I've ever been around. He would do anything for anybody in this program to help us win a football game. 59 pass attempts is probably too many for any quarterback to throw in a game. Score had something to do with that at the end, but that's a lot of times to drop back into the ball. Not they're all dropbacks, some are play action RPOs, things like that. Guy's special. That fourth down that he went out there and just dove and gave his body up. That guy's a legend in my opinion.
Yeah, that was an incredible play. The fourth down where he leaped forward and really took a blow. How do you? He's banged up pretty good. So how do you manage him this week, and how do you manage his status also?
Well, right now we listen to what the doctors say. You know what I mean? I mean, they examine him like we do with all of our players. You know, coaches don't make decisions on injuries. Try to get a sense of, you know, what his availability would be for this weekend. In the meantime, that's why we were all excited about Tyler and Jake all off season. Those guys have worked hard. That know that there was we thought there was a chance last Saturday. You know, one of those guys would have to go into the game. So they get a chance to compete all week in practice, and if they get called upon this weekend against Central Connecticut State, they get a chance to show everybody what they can do and show our team. And I think our team believes in both guys. And if they get in there, our standard of expectation of how we move the ball and score on offense doesn't change.
Coach, you have to give Michigan State credit, of course. You told us a week ago that their quarterback was a special guy. But Walker, the running back, 170-plus yards and very, very talented. I mean, came out of the ACC, was at Wake Forest, and transferred in.
Yeah, I thought Walker was the best player on the field. I thought he made the difference. Him and the quarterback have changed them from what they were a year ago. Which we've seen that with transfers and how that can happen. But again, we helped. Let's just say, we certainly helped the quarterback. He had a big scramble there at the end where we could have done a better job rushing the passer on a third down. And again, wrapping up the running back on some of those plays is just fundamentals.
Okay, it's Miami coming up on Saturday against Central Connecticut State. We'll talk a little bit about that game and how that game can help the University of Miami. We will continue on the Manny Diaz Show right after this.
Hello, I'm the Good Greek Spiro, and I have some very exciting news. Good Greek Moving and Storage is launching our Welcome Home program. Book your next move with Good Greek and you will receive our housewarming package, which includes gift cards valued at over $1,000, along with a neighborhood guide as you discover your new favorite local businesses. For the best move ever and to receive your exclusive gift offer, visit goodgreek.com and welcome home.
Greek Moving and Storage, your superhero movers.
Sure are a lot of different drivers out there, and AutoNation is here for every one of them. The 10 and 2ers, the big fellas, nothing but the besters, even rock stars. But we do way more than sell new and pre-owned vehicles. We believe in something bigger, too. For every vehicle we sell or service, we donate to Drive Out Cancer. Over $28 million so far. What drives you, drives us. AutoNation.
Happy to welcome you back to the Manny Diaz Show. Joe Zagacki and Don Bailey Jr. and University of Miami head coach Manny Diaz. Hurricanes this week at home against Central Connecticut State, 12:30 kickoff. Let's talk about how hard it is to win games and maybe dive into winning. And I'll use this as an example. Last week, there are two teams in the league, Pittsburgh and Virginia. The two quarterbacks, Pickett and Armstrong, between them, coach, threw for 950 yards and 10 touchdowns, and they didn't win. Winning is hard.
It is, and sometimes it's a learned behavior, and every team learns it a different way. It obviously, the way we start our season, we've got some guys that need a little bit of boost with their confidence, and maybe side of the ball that needs a little bit of boost with their confidence. So when you get a chance to get a win and get the feeling that comes with the win, and guys start to improve their level of play, their level of performance, that it brightens everything up on the football team. So I think this is a great weekend for us, a great opportunity this week in practice to go through some hard things. You know what I mean? And it's a week to focus on Miami, and the whole goal is to end up in a winning locker room Saturday afternoon.
Charleston Rambo, 12 catches, ties a UM record, 156 yards, couple touchdowns. Boy, he found his groove.
Yeah, we thought we had a winning matchup on the outside, and he was dominant. And they were going to play super soft coverage and not let us throw the ball deep over their head, which is already kind of a compliment from where we were a year ago. That people are respecting us deep on the outside lanes. But the key is that even though you're throwing shorter passes, now you can get some run after the catch, make a guy miss, and still turn some of those shorter plays into explosive plays. So. A great job catching the ball by Rambo, but also a great job of getting run after the catch and shooting up those yards.
What I liked on one touchdown catch is he found himself open in the back of the end zone and stayed open. Some guys think they get open, then they start drifting and end up getting themselves covered.
Yeah.
But he was very mature.
Yeah, you got to find a hole in the zone. You know what I mean, and sit down and show your hands to the quarterback. And it it was crazy how kind of nonchalant he caught the ball. It was like he was playing catch out in the backyard.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll ever have an easier touchdown than that one, but I have a suspicion it's not going to be his last.
Coach Romello Brinson came in, a freshman, a young man from Miami Northwestern, and he had his 3 catches and looked very, very comfortable for his age.
Yeah, he did, and not easy catches, and easy parts of the field. So, he's been more and more confident as he's learned what to do every day in practice, and you see his role start to expand. And I think you'll see more and more guys in that freshman class impact our team as the year goes on.
I think a lot of people are asking a little bit about some of those guys. Taylor, the big defensive tackle. James Williams has played. Cam Kitchens has played also. How do you see their development, and can they have an impact as the season goes on?
Oh, I think they have to. I think they have to. But especially the ones that weren't here in the spring. One of the things that's happened in college football because training camp keeps getting chopped.
Yeah.
Right. You used to have 2-a-days. You have to have 29 practice opportunities, and then that went to 25. But it's really not. I mean, one of your 25 practices is the walkthrough the day before the Alabama game. That's not really a practice to get your team better. So with what they've done with training camp and limiting your practice opportunities, if you're not around for spring, the way we have to look at it is September is almost a continuation of training camp for some of your freshmen. You're still teaching them. You're still trying to groom them. You're still trying to learn. And that's why in our mind, there's 2 openers to a season in a way. There is your season opener, and then there's the conference opener. And then our conference opener is a little bit unique because it's followed by a long bye. So you almost had, you've got your run of games in September, and you take this long break. You don't play again until almost mid-October. So now that's a lot more seasoning for some of those young players in terms of their knowledge of scheme and how to play at a collegiate level. They may be a lot different what they are on October 12th than what they were on September 12th per se. So that's all part of the development process.
Coach, Borregalis again comes up with a 55-yard. Unfortunately, he misses the 27. I don't know what I would have traded for. Probably I would have rather had him make the 27 because of the momentum, but at least you now know during a game, this freshman can make it happen from 55.
That's right, and obviously we knew he was going to miss some point. They're not robots, but either way, even though the kick late was significant because it got it back to a 1-score game and gave us a chance to come back and win the game. We trust him. He tells me before every game he's good to about 55. That was a little bit on the edge. That was one of those scenarios where you don't really have a great option. Punting's not a great option there. Going for it on 4th and 10 is extraordinarily low percentage. And trusting Andy to go out there and kick it, that turned out to pay off.
Coach, how often do you trust what they tell you? Or you have your own number in your head, what you've seen? Because I'm sure they think they can kick it 65.
Well, I trust what I see, and that's why we chart all these kicks in practice, and you watch them in pregame warmups, and the protection was really good too, and that's important as well because sometimes those long kicks are easier to get blocked.
Every team, it's going to happen probably every year. Team's going to find themselves up against the ropes, right? It's kind of how you respond to get off the ropes, and that's kind of where you are right now, right? You got to be looking. This game probably comes at a good time, but I would imagine that you would expect your team to keep throwing a lot of punches here.
Of course, nobody we had a team meeting. We talked about this Sunday night. Nobody's happy with where they are, and when the team's down, everybody's down. There's no player who's, well, I'm doing fine. It's the team's problem. It's all of our problems, and that means also we're all the solution. And it takes a sense of urgency. When you're somewhere where you don't want to be, if you stay there, you're going to continue to be where you don't want to be. So it takes a lot of fight, drive, courage to change your setting. We have that in our control, and I think that's what our players believe. And I think it's hard to understand on the outside. Is we have the chance to change what we've seen, and the definition, I told the team this after the game, of mental toughness, which we talk about all the time, is not letting prior results dictate future performance. It's easy to think, well, because they've done this, they will continue to do this forever. We know that that's not true in sports. That's why we watch sports, right? Our guys are in control of our next performance. And what we did in the past doesn't matter. It's a new deck of cards every week, and we have to make sure that we deal it the way we want it dealt.
Coach, offensive line every week has had a new lineup, and that's through history. That's not what you want at that position. You'd like to have the same guys for 25 years, if they're the right 5 guys. Right. But you're still working through those rotations.
Yeah, and now part of that is injury enforced. I'm not sure if we'll have Jalen back. That's not ideal, and you come out of camp, you think you've got something, and you get into these games, and it's a little bit different in games. It just is, You find out a little bit more about yourself, and it's left us a little bit unsettled. I think there's a way about the offensive line, though, in terms of understanding as the games go on what those guys can do and how they can function together and how we can help them out schematically. You mentioned if you throw the ball, 50 some odd times, you're going to have some bad downs in pass protection. That's just going to happen, and to be able to establish more of a run game and get some more type of things going like that. I think that's all part of our control and part of our self-scout as well.
You have this game against Central Connecticut State before Virginia. This game probably is going to be a lot about Miami, right? What do you hope to achieve in this game, finding out about Miami?
Well, the things that we're emphasizing all week. One is to make sure that our physicality is not in question. It doesn't matter what uniform, who you're playing, you control your physicality. And that is defined by what do your feet do on contact. It's not an opinion. Your feet stop on contact, your feet run on contact. Now, you may be contacting a bigger guy or a smaller guy, that's that guy's fault, or that's that guy's, but you don't control that guy's size. You do control your response to when you are moving at force and you collide into something, what your feet do tells you everything about your physicality. So we've got to make sure that we run through contact. That's blocking, that's tackling, that's breaking tackles, it's doing it all. Certainly, we've got to do a better job protecting and getting the football out. And again, it doesn't really matter who you play. If you put the ball in harm's way, anybody can turn you over. If you don't secure it high and tight, if we put our quarterback in vulnerable positions where he can fumble it, all these things that lead to turnovers really don't matter what team you're playing against. We've got to catch the ball better, right? If you're wide open for a touchdown, if the guy's got crimson jerseys on around you or green jerseys or blue jerseys like this weekend, it doesn't really matter. You're wide open, catch the ball. There is no opponent that affects whether we catch the ball when it's thrown. And the one I'm talking about especially is we have to make our layups, right? There are hard plays, and we have good enough players to make our layups and just make the plays that are there. We've been dropping layups, missing our layups, and it's very hard to stay on rhythm offensively when you do that. And then the last thing, and these are all a little bit tied in together, is red zone efficiency on both sides. We had them defensively 3 times on third down in the red zone. All 3 were converted that led to touchdowns. Offensively, we mentioned the one time we were down there, it could have been 14-3, and it's been too much, it's been too often. The game it's about points. There's only 2 ways to get points: long touchdowns or red zone scores, right? So if defensively, if you're not giving up long touchdowns, offensive, if you're having a hard time scoring long touchdowns, the game's going to be won and lost in the red zone. That's where the points are. So we've got to improve our play down there. We're very specific in terms of what we're attacking this week, and to me, I don't know that this has anything with what we've identified right now. This is going to be our battle cry from here on out, because these are the things that win games or lose games. There's no emotion involved. Doesn't matter how you feel. These are things that we've got to get corrected.
Penalties, Coach, they've just been in every game that we've had here at Miami this season, and you have officials at practice. How do you overcome that, or how do you cut that back?
Well, like I said, I think we only had 6 in the first game. We had 8 in the second game. So I was, the 6 number when we analyze the penalties from the Bama game, okay, that's probably about what you're going to happen in a season opener. The number went up this game. Well, you have one guy that's a true freshman that had 3 himself, right? 2 holding penalties on a punt return, a horse collar tackle on defense.
Right.
Okay, well, that's a young guy. To be honest, he's trying to dominate his man on punt holdup, but he doesn't understand that he's, by throwing his man to the ground, something that probably in high school was a great play, that's holding. Now you tell the guy on the sideline, hey, the referee told you it's holding. He's like, no, yes, it is holding. Goes out there and does it again. So sometimes that's why freshmen are freshmen, and it's always fun to have the freshmen go in and play, and we're going to brag on those guys in a second, but they're still freshmen. So when you have a game when you have, what do we have, 8? I'm trying to remember, get the 3 confused, but one guy has 3, that's a big part of it,
Is there, I know everything ties together, is there one part of the defense you're more satisfied with than the other, whether it's maybe the front 7 play, or feel pretty good about the front 7, you got to go fix the secondary, or vice versa?
Yeah, it's been, over 3 games, it's been the front 7. Our front 7 is much improved from where we were a year ago. That's still the foundation of playing great defense. Now the frustration is, why are we not getting the results defensively that we think we should? This past game, tackling. We were not as good on third down this game as we were in the App State game. We're still leveraging a lot of people to third down and longs. Why are you doing that? Because you're really, really good in the front seven. The majority of the rushing yardage that came against us did not come tackle to tackle. They came with the ball bouncing, sort of what we call it, falling off the table on both sides. The game was, all of their yards came in the alley. Now those yards all count too, but that is also a sign of respect that they didn't feel with their big physical Big Ten offensive line. They didn't feel like they could block us in the rallies. They couldn't, and they had a hard time protecting their passer for the majority of the game. And so those guys. If we can continue to hold that, we can fix the other things. But to me, I'd rather it be that way than the other way around. If I was more worried about the front seven and felt good about the back end, I'd probably be more concerned at this point.
Speaking of front seven, Harrison Hunt is quietly having a very good year through all 3 games to this point.
Yeah.
And what is his best attribute?
He flashes every game because he's so athletic. So they left the 1-on-1 on his zone play, and he's just so quick. Guys don't see, offensive linemen don't see guys with his skill set very often, and he can go back there and finish a play. In addition to he's got pass rush ability because of his athleticism. So we're so blessed that we can rotate guys in there. I think that's the secret sauce, is that our defensive line is staying fresh during the course of the game, so they can be relentless in terms of getting after the offensive line.
All right, well, we got a long way to go. We have 2 games coming up here. Miami has 2 games coming up in less than 14 days. So a lot of things can go right in the next 12 days, right? And so next one is Central Connecticut State. Very best of luck on that one.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that's University of Miami head coach Manny Diaz. Stay with us. We will continue on the show right after this.
With UHealth Virtual Clinics, you can see our experts in every specialty wherever you are.
University of Miami health system providers are available here for all your healthcare needs.
All you need is a phone or tablet to schedule a virtual visit with us.
See a UHealth provider virtually today or at a time that's convenient for you.
Visit umiamihealth.org/virtual clinics or call 305-243-4000.
The school bus.
The Zach Wagon.
Wally.
No matter what you call your car or why you're letting it go, AutoNation will buy it, and you don't have to buy one from us. We're paying top dollar right now. So go to AutoNation.com or come see us for a super easy appraisal. Get paid on the spot, and you can deposit it the same day. Visit any AutoNation store or AutoNation.com. What drives you drives us.
University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. Experts treat athletes of all levels, elite pros, active adults, and youth athletes. Recover your game. Visit uhealthsportsmedicine.com.
It's now time for the breakdown segment with head coach Manny Diaz. And coach, you got a lot up for us to look at today.
Yeah, one of the things about this team was we have such a talented last 2 recruiting classes. These guys are starting to get bigger and bigger roles. Want to point some of these guys out, because I think that's going to be exciting for this weekend and beyond the season as these guys see their role increase. So it's a really nice job here by Coach Lashley, some play design. This is the first play of a drive, and hanging out in the slot right there is Brashard Smith, who was such a weapon for Miami Palmetto. So you look like you're running a sweep play to the right. Brashard comes back here on the reverse. Defensive end's got to squeeze, Derek King right here. Derek does a nice job of just covering him up. Now, this unfortunately, this is college football in 2021. You can't hit people like this anymore. You gotta just kind of hug them and kiss them. But really, what I want to show here is just Brashard's speed and athleticism. This is what we want to see. Just a guy that's got great skills. Look at him just eat up the grass right there. And then I love the way he lowers. See how he lowers his shoulder right there through contact. That's pretty strong right there for a true freshman. It's pretty cool.
Well, the good thing is, too, Coach, you don't have to coach that speed, right? That comes natural.
Some guys have speed, but some guys aren't up for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And see him, put his shoulder underneath that and to get that near knee forward was actually pretty cool right there. So then this is a 3rd down and 9, and there's good plays and there's really tough plays, and this is a really, really tough play. Starting up here at the top of the screen, Romello Brinson. Same thing in that same class. We think of so highly of him, Brashard and Jacoby George. Romello's running a drive route, coming across the field on a mesh. Sees it's man-to-man, so he stays on the move. De'Eric gets flushed out, so he's hanging in there for his quarterback. And then it's a small thing, but see how he catches the ball away from his body?
Yes.
It's really, really important. You know what I mean? Catch the ball away from his body. Doesn't let it get to his chest. Now, so many young guys right here, because in high school, they see this defender coming here, they want to bounce that way. But what's the down and distance? It's 3rd down and 9, right? And what happens is they go to bounce, they don't get the first down. So this is, again, a very experienced veteran play to stick it in there. You know you're going to get hit. Hey, welcome to college football. Ball security, hangs onto the ball and is able to get the tough yards first down. And what I love is that, look, of the 3 guys that went up to the ground, who's up first? The freshman. Look at the 2 Michigan State defenders get up, and Bermelo's already handing the ball to the referee, ready to run the next play. That's big time.
Coach, when the quarterback and the wide receiver relationship, when you see that sometimes takes years.
Yeah.
Brinson hasn't been here that long. I mean, you could see they were making eye-to-eye contact when the pass was delivered.
It's impressive. You know what I mean? It's a knack, and he's got a knack for it. Here's a guy we've been talking about every week, and again, you can line up in a running set. It's Elijah Arroyo right here at the right tight end, you know, and bang, you know, Derek turns, looks like a running play. You know, he's blocking his defensive end. You can see the defensive ends starting to look back in the backfield, wondering what's going on. Derek pulls it out on a naked, and again, hits Elijah in the flat again, and just a nice job again securing the catch, and then just a little funny thing right here, just a little shimmy. I'll show you from the end zone. You see a really good example. 1001, 1000 go. You know, so Derek's got him in the flat. He's got Will on the over route behind it. Okay, thinks about Will, comes back to Elijah, and then same thing. Watch just a little head shoulder fake, right?
Yep.
You know, and it just keeps the contact off of him, helps him secure the football. You know, again, kind of mature stuff for a young guy.
I don't know that our fans realize how big a target he is. He's gotten bigger every week since he's been here.
Yeah, those are 2 in 80 and 85. We got 2, you know, big guys. Catch radius is what we like to talk about. Now on defense, there's been some guys. It was cool. We actually had 3 sacks on Saturday. All 3 sacks were by second-year guys in the program. But some of these guys are just getting really their first full experience. And this is Chance Williams right here, line up a defensive end. He's made a play in the opener. He's made a play in the App State game. This is early on in the game right here, early in the drive when they're going to try to take a shot, throw down the field against our man coverage. And look at the quarterback. I mean, the quarterback takes his hitch step, and Chance Williams is on top of him. I mean, that's an intimidating sack, and it's so nice to know that when they're throwing the ball deep, you see we got tight coverage down the field, is that by the time somebody might have a chance to run away from leverage, that the quarterback's already getting smushed.
Coach, 2 years ago when you were recruiting Chance, what did you see in him then that led you to believe that would be the type of production you would have now?
Well, Chance was a young man. We recruited Chance for about 4 years. We knew him from the time that he went into 9th grade. But he always had a knack for being able to get the quarterback on the ground. You know, he had great playmaking skills in the backfield. And right here, they're trying to run a turn protection. They're trying to block with 7 guys, sliding the offensive line and bringing the back and tight end here. But all of a sudden, Amari Carter and Corey Flagg showing up makes somebody make a poor decision. But Chance is just going, you know what I mean? And that's the whole point, you know, just covering up ground. They have the choice. They got 3 of us. They only got 2 of them. That's a bad down for them, and he's able to finish.
And wingspan is something you like on defensive ends, and he's got it.
Love it. He's got great length, and that helps him make plays. This is one later in the half, and again, another young guy, Elijah Roberts, who's got a chance to help us out. He's a very versatile player on the inside-outside. He's got a great knack for rushing the passer. So this is a 3rd down and long. They slide the whole protection to him, so it's hard to win on the inside, right? But he does a nice job right there of slapping the offensive lineman's hands down, finishes, and now can you turn the corner right here? And what we always talk about sacking the quarterback is it normally takes 2 guys. You know, you might have the one like Chance who's got to get cut free, but he makes the quarterback step up in the pocket, and then watch Corey Flagg, who's sort of in our spy position right here. Flagg's right there. Quarterback steps up right into the area that Flagg has, and then there's Elijah on the backside. And, you know, in the NFL, they call that a half a sack. I don't know if we have half a sacks in college, but to see those 2 young guys combine on sacks really special.
Manny, this defensive line is fortunate to have Coach Simpson in there. I mean, he does a great job teaching technique. Sometimes it takes 4 years for a guy to learn the rips and the swims and everything that comes with it.
That's exactly right. You can see the club right there with Elijah right here with the strong left hand on the outside hand of the tackle, helps him turn the corner. And then again, the ability to finish at the quarterback, what a cool moment for him, you know, here in front of his family and friends. And then I'll show you a couple plays on kicking, because these are the ones that a little bit are hard to see during the course of the game. And the guy I want to show you right here is a backup linebacker. We have Deshaun Troutman, okay? He's right here. This is actually his first snap of college football, okay? He didn't get in the first couple of weeks. It's a kickoff, and this is actually a big point in the game. I think it's the one we've just scored. And, you know, watch right, make sure we're still watching right there. Yoom. Look at that right there. That's awesome. I mean, that to me is the physicality that we want to be playing with. Another guy that's really showing out is Avery Huff, whose role is growing and growing more. Same thing, bang. The hammer, not the nail. And what does he make this guy do? By being physical, you create a penalty. The guy tackles, puts Avery right to the ground, tackles him. So to me, you got, you know, you're the returner. You got Troutman knocking a body on the floor. You got Avery Huff drawing a penalty, and then here comes Corey Flagg again with their, you know, that name we just talked about, making a tackle inside the 20. Avery's penalty backs him up inside the 10. Great place to start for our defense.
One of the quick ways to get on that plane, isn't it? Or
Yeah,
on the field is special
and that's
teams.
the whole point. That's what you want to see. You want to see guys step up in special teams. The assignments are easier. And then obviously there's this guy, right? The guy in the 30 shirt, you know. How cool was this? A great moment. You know, you got to get the game down to 2 scores, like we talked about earlier in the show. No great decisions here. 4th and 10 is not a great decision. 55-yard field goal is normally not a great decision. Punting from the 38 is not a great decision. You could take a delay and back yourself up, but they can decline that. So you got to trust your guy, you know what I mean? And a lot of guys, you know, they're trying to do a middle block, which makes sense. You know, the kick is normally lower. And just, I mean, he just gets all of this thing, gets it up in the air. Really, really cool moment. What that'll do for his confidence and the team's confidence in him is pretty special. You can see the guys.
His after kick looked like he knew what was happening, didn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, you watch what he puts into the kick. I mean, look where he finishes. You know, you guys, have you ever,
a leg extension.
Yeah, look. I mean, he ends up 2 yards ahead of the block point. That's whatever he weighs. It all went through that ball right there, and he did it all to get 55 yards through. Pretty cool. Like I said, a lot of talented young guys in this program whose role will only continue to increase.
All right, that does it for the breakdown segment with head coach Manny Diaz. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
They cheer, they yell, they scream for the best moves. And the Miami Hurricanes are going to show you why they'll dominate the field this season. But for the best moves off the field, Good Greek Moving and Storage is the team you can rely on. We ensure a stress-free move on time and on budget, locally or nationwide. And now, Good Greek is the official mover of the Miami Hurricanes. Let Good Greek be your official mover too.
Good Greek Moving and Storage, your superhero movers.
If you train like a pro, then you should be treated like a pro. Much like the human body, our team of sports medicine experts moves as one to achieve a singular goal. Recover your game.
The joint chiropractic adjustment of the game. De'Aaron King hooking up with Charleston Rambo on the goal line. A tight needle to thread. What a catch by Charleston Rambo for the touchdown. Rambo, a cocoon of concentration. The joint chiropractic adjustment of the game. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Joe Zagacki with Don Bailey Jr. and podcaster and sideline reporter Josh Darrow. All right, fellas, let's talk about University of Miami. Central Connecticut State is coming up on Saturday at 12:30. Let's start with this topic. De'Aaron King may or may not be ready for this game, but boy, did he lay it on the line against Michigan State. So let's go there. His leadership has been invaluable.
Since the day he hit campus, I would say that he has taken over this football team. He is a guy that leads by example in the weight room, in the classroom, on the field, and he provides leadership for every single player here. What I witnessed after the game, and Josh was there as well, it was very, very difficult for him to even get out of his pads. And you know, you hear this forever in football. You're supposed to leave it all on the field. Well, he left every ounce of sweat, every bit of energy, and he put forth as big an effort as I've ever seen, and he paid for it physically. I mean, this young man was beat to a pulp, and he wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
You know what? All I could think in my head, and there wasn't the opportunity, was just to walk up to him and tell him how much respect I had for him, for what he did that game. What Don said. He gave everything he had, and he was beaten up, and it was more telling after the game how beaten up he was, and now we know exactly how much pain he was in. You wouldn't ask for anything more from anyone on your team playing football. What he and the position he plays, and he didn't stop. Meaning, even if he was banged up, if he had to take off, he still took off. When he launched himself on fourth down, he gave up his body. There were times he got hit in the pocket, and he stayed in the game. I'm hard pressed to even remember off the top of my head a game where you just want to go, I have nothing but the utmost respect and admiration for what you just put on the field.
But he's done that every single game that he's been
did it
here.
last year too.
You know, I mean, it's every contest.
He's coming off this knee surgery. Everybody was wondering about his durability, which you can't question now, considering what we saw last week. In addition to, he has run the most plays inside the ACC. He's the player that has run the most plays. Now, in this game, healthy or not healthy, D'Eriq King, either way, we would expect to see Van Dyke and Garcia because of the opponent. And so this is going to be a good opportunity, one way or the other, for these two young guys to play.
Well, we have to remember that players now still, you're allowed 4 games, and then you can play 4, and you can still be redshirted. So I'm with you. I think that you're going to see the future of the University of Miami this week. It gives them a great opportunity. You can burn that one game for a lot of guys, and this is the time to do it. And I think that those two quarterbacks, when you and I go back to training camp and we think about how they were at the scrimmages and how they performed, and I'm looking forward to it. And we're 8 to 10 games away, or whatever it is for D'Eriq King till the season's over. We've got to find a new quarterback, and this is a part of that process.
100%, and I think a couple of things. One, you got to like the way the room looks, right? You have D'Eriq King, and you have 2 guys behind him that you're invested in. So that's great, because I know his philosophy is take one every year. So they've got 2. The other thing is, this is a part of college football. This is the way it's set up. You have to have games like this to get those guys experience. But before the Alabama game for us, they were talking how last year with the COVID schedule, Bryce Young didn't get the reps that he normally would have gotten in an Alabama season. You want those guys to step onto the field. You want those guys to play. They have to get that out of their system. I think it's great.
Transfer portal has once again been good to the University of Miami. One of the best players for the Kings this year has been Charleston Rambo. The catch he made against Michigan State on the goal line was an incredible catch for a touchdown. He had 12 receptions. It was the most by an ACC receiver last week.
He had an outstanding ball game, Joe, and the thing about it is I like him after he catches the football. He's not a guy that looks to tip out of bounds. He looks for contact. He gets his head around on all the throws, and there's a touchdown play where he's waving in the back of the end zone, as we just saw, and he just planted himself there. That's experience. That's not a guy that drifted from his spot. That's not a guy that took his own route upon himself. He followed the scheme, he followed the play, and he doesn't have the dropsies.
He does not have the dropsies, which is, what is the primary responsibility of a wide receiver?
Catch the ball.
Thank you, catch the ball.
Catch the ball before you run with the ball.
You got it. So to Don's point, talk to Rob Likens, and what do you like about him? His experience. Mm-hmm. There's a calmness to him. There's a confidence to him. You can also tell there's a skill set to him. I can go back to the App State game, the toe tap on the sideline, on the play down the sideline, and then that play against Michigan State at the end zone was a play that the coaching staff's been yearning for. Mike Hartley made a catch like that too in the game. A play that you have to win. You have to win that rep. You're going to get hit hard, and that shows your toughness and your physicality. It was a big point of the game, and he's kind of developed. You talked in the last segment with Coach Diaz about developing relationships. Him and D'Eriq seemed to be developing a nice little relationship, and he's someone. Look, at the end of the day, life, business, sports, trust. They trust each other.
We move on to the defense. There have been flashes of some good plays, but we all know there have been too many missed tackles and not enough takeaways. And something tells me that Manny Diaz is going to do everything he can to fix it, especially the tackling.
They're going to fix it. It will be fixed. It's something that I remember the first day when Coach Diaz got here as defensive coordinator. The first thing that he talked about was tackling. And then we went into Coach Banda's office, and he put on the clinic about it and where it came from, the Seattle Seahawks and the style that they use, the rugby tackle, however it is. And he is committed to it. It's been a part of his plan since the day he got here as a coordinator. So this is a great time this week when you're dealing with an opponent that allows you to go back to spring practice, to go back to the basics, to go back to the fundamentals, and you can hit this week. And you can find that physicality that Coach Diaz says this team has lost, but they will find. And I like the part that he's going to open up and put the most physical players on the field, not maybe the oldest, not maybe the most experienced, but the most physical players, because that is what football is. It is a physical sport.
And that's that's his identity. When he first got here, it wasn't always about the what, it was about the how to him. The effort and the tackling and the physicality. And he can't, obviously he's not going to sit there and look at that and go, this is what I expect. He's got a standard himself. And if that's at your core, we always talk about what do you believe in? That's what he believes in. That's going to be the center of what he needs to coach up. And I'd agree with Don. Like, if that's an issue, it will be addressed, and he will put his priorities on it, not only as the head coach, but as a defensive coordinator.
Okay, Miami and Central Connecticut State, 12:30 at Hard Rock Stadium. An opportunity for the Hurricanes to correct a lot of mistakes. 12:30 at Hard Rock Stadium.
Sure are a lot of different drivers out there, and AutoNation is here for every one of them. The 10 and 2ers, the big fellas, nothing but the besters, even rock stars. But we do way more than sell new and pre-owned vehicles. We believe in something bigger, too. For every vehicle we sell or service, we donate to Drive Out Cancer. Over $28 million so far. What drives you, drives us. AutoNation.
Hello, I'm the Good Greek Spiro, and I have some very exciting news. Good Greek Moving and Storage is launching our Welcome Home program. Book your next move with Good Greek, and you will receive our housewarming package, which includes gift cards valued at over $1,000, along with a neighborhood guide as you discover your new favorite local businesses. For the best move ever and to receive your exclusive gift offer, visit goodgreek.com and welcome home.
Greek Moving and Storage, your superhero movers.
The keys of the game are brought to you by AutoNation. No matter how long you've had your car or why you're letting it go, AutoNation will buy it, and you don't have to buy one from us. We'll give you a top dollar offer and check on the spot. You can deposit right away. Appraise your car today at AutoNation.com. All right, welcome back to the show. Miami and Central Connecticut State, the Blue Devils. 12:30 kickoff at Hard Rock Stadium. Let's dive into the keys to the game. And at the very top of the list for the University of Miami, I think we got to eliminate penalties. The Hurricanes have really struggled with penalties. Got to improve the red zone offense and protect the ball. Canes are giving the ball away too often. Let's start with that. The number one key, eliminate the penalties. You can't have 10 penalties a game. They're averaging nearly 8 a game.
You can't, Joe. You had 9 last week. It puts Miami in bad down and distance. It stops the momentum. It gives the opponent momentum. And it's, Coach talked about it. One guy had 3 penalties last week. One guy that had a third of what it was. And I want to remind everybody, they have officials at practice. They talk about it. They run for it. There's punishment. There's everything you do. Eventually, you got to shut it down as a team.
Yeah, and field position, right? They always talk about hidden yardage. Usually on special teams, they talk about. I'm going to look at penalties as hidden yardage or hidden negative yardage, right? If you're moving your team back, it could be a full football field worth of negative. Plus, it's a momentum breaker. It's a deal killer. It's a drive killer, and yeah, you're just hurting. It's as simple as mistakes. You're just hurting yourself, and penalties are part of the issue. And I would expect it, like the tackling, it'll be a point of emphasis.
Last year, the University of Miami was in the top 50 or 60 in red zone offense. This year, they almost are at the very bottom in the country in red zone offense. So you got to improve the red zone offense. And to that fact, overall, they've run the 3rd most plays inside the ACC, 222 plays. Miami has 5 touchdowns. Let me give you a comparison. Pittsburgh has run 20 more plays, 242 plays. They have 18 touchdowns. Got to get the ball in the end zone.
We just need a few more plays to get all those touchdowns. That's what it is. No, the red zone, when you talk about that, the mentality almost has to change on your football team. You have to realize that you are there, you have to get points, it's touchdowns first, it's 6 points, and then you start worrying about the field goals and everything that comes after that. But the way that the game has been taught is that is a different part of the field, and that's the zone. And we saw Rambo make some plays around in the red zone area. We've seen other guys do it, but it's got to produce points.
100%, because for two things. One, you only get so many of those opportunities, right? So when you get down there, you have to take advantage. I mean, or you're literally leaving points off the scoreboard. Number two, it puts pressure on your defense to have to hold up every possession. So again, you said it. It's about scoring. It's about getting ahead. Because the other thing too about doing that, it puts pressure on the other team as well, right? If you kind of let them off the hook if you can't capitalize and you can only kick a field goal, and if you also don't come out of a drive with no points, that's the ultimate kiss of death. So yeah, it has to improve. This game I think might be coming at a good time. It's a good time to just kind of reset, recalibrate, and address issues, and then move it forward.
Okay, the final key is protect the ball. Miami is turning the ball over too much. 4 turnovers against Michigan State. They're -5 in the takeaway turnover category. So protecting the ball the rest of the way becomes a real emphasis.
Joe, I don't care how much longer we do this. I hope it's 25 more years. If you give the football away in a game 4 times, if you're -4, you're not winning the football game. I don't care how many games you look at. I don't care what it is. You cannot have that happen. And I go back to the number. Last year was a spectacular number for Miami when they only gave the football away 9 times. They're at 7 in 3 games. It doesn't bode well for success, and you have to constantly talk about it. You work on it in practice. All 3 of us know they go out there, they protect the football, they try and strip it, they work on it, they focus on it. Cannot have it.
No, can't have it. And you go back to the first, I think it was the first drive of the game, right? That you're building plays, you're stacking momentum, you looks like the things are working in your favor. And, there's a fumble. That just it knocks the air out of you, and then it happens over and over. And in that game particularly, and there was a critical one in the fourth quarter that again you're trying to mount a comeback, but at the end of the day, if you can't give away yards, in penalties, or you can't take them away. You can't give the ball away, and you have to capitalize in the red zone. And we've kind of checked off 3 things that, why are we in this place? And those would be 3 areas that have hurt the team, but they're also areas that you can fix. And the other side would be, at least it's very clear, right? As a staff, it's very clear. What has happened? What do we need to do? What do we need to fix?
All right, a chance for the University of Miami to get back into the winner's circle on Saturday against Central Connecticut State, 12:30 at Hard Rock Stadium. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on the Manny Diaz Show.